Go here. Just let me know when you want to go.
Yeah, how many now?
14.
Okay, we'll give it 1 minute.
Don't go to that first slide with the thing until I point to you.
Sure.
I'm going to have after my introduction, going like a couple sentences. Yes, now data's growing, blah, 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 and then.
Yeah, I won't click unless you. Unless you see that.
Don't stretch.
Yeah. Wrong slide.
You guys ready?
Ready.
What are we at for count?
15.
I think you're ready to go.
Okay. And 16. Okay.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Beamish from Canatech, and I'm a member of the Canatech marketing team. And I'm pleased to welcome you today to today's webinar, Understanding Your Data and Eliminating the Backup of Useless Content. What we're seeing today is, with the exponential growth in data, backup is becoming less about backing up strategically and more really about managing the massive flow of content. So we're going to have a great discussion today, and let's first move to the agenda and talk about what we're going to be covering today. So first, what we're going to be looking at is really kind of exploring what's happening in the data world, where the growth is coming from, and how big it's actually growing. Following that, we're going to talk about some of the challenges in terms of how to manage that information within your businesses. And then we're going to cover some of the solutions that we feel will be able to address some of those information management challenges that you might have. And we're pleased that we have some real case study examples of what type of data businesses are having today and how they're managing some of that data. And then we're going to also open up to Q&A as well. But let me first let you tell you a bit about Canatech, and then we'll get into some of the specifics. So Canatech, for those of you who aren't aware, is over 30 years old and has had tremendous success in corporate data protection. There are offices for Canatech in both Ottawa and Toronto, and we cover all of Canada. And we've been recognized as a leader in the design, the implementation, and support of complex data management solutions. So I encourage you to go to our website to find out more about Canatech, and that could be found at www.canatech.com. One other part of the housekeeping is we will be taking questions today via the chat window. So if your chat window may be open already on your screen. If not, just go to your lower tray and you'll see the icon for the GoToMeeting. Just click on that and type your question where it indicates. And we'll do our best to address all the questions that come in today. If we're unable to address all of them, we will be creating an FAQ, which we will send out to everybody who is attending today. So with that, I'd like to now pass the baton over to our host, who is Jack Armitage from Canatech. Jack, maybe before you get started, you can just give us a few words about yourself and your background.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jack Armitage. I'm a solutions architect and part of the Canatech professional services team. I'm based out of Ottawa. So over the last 15 years, I worked for a number of companies in the industry, including in manufacturers such as Symantec, Veritas, and my focus is mainly on data protection and data management. During those 15 years, I've worked with a number of clients across a wide range of industry sectors. I've seen firsthand the data challenges they face around backup and recovery, data management, and I can honestly tell you from what I've seen, it's all quite consistent. They all have lots and lots of data. They have consistent data growth, and lots of this data is very unorganized. So as we all know, data is growing at a rapid pace. Every organization has more and more data this year than they did the previous years. As technologies advance, so do the amounts of data that these new technologies produce. New apps, new tools, they all seem to produce more data, larger data sets, And of course, we still have all the data to deal with from the years past. Storage analysts from research groups like Gartner and IDC produce regular reports on the subject of data and storage growth. Really, regardless of the report you look at, they all show a very similar trend. That is a trend which clearly shows exponential data growth year over year. According to this IDC report, which we're looking on the screen right now, the total amount of data stored worldwide will reach about 12 or 13 exabytes just next year. For those of you who aren't familiar with exabytes, so 1 exabyte is about a million terabytes. It's a lot of data. By 2020, we're on track for about 44 exabytes of data. Out of that huge amount, it is estimated that 80% will be unstructured data.
Well, this is a really good opportunity now, Jack, to kind of poll our audience to get an understanding of what their experience in terms of data within their networks. So this is first of all, let me stress that this poll is anonymous. We won't know who said what, but it would be interesting. We have a number of people on our webinar today. So if you could just take a minute and tell us how much of the data you're backing up you would consider as stale. And we're defining stale today as, Jack would say, something that's over 2 years old.
Stale is essentially data that hasn't been accessed, used in quite some time. Let's say, I don't know, let's say 6 months or more.
Okay, and you know, before we get the responses, what do you think we're going to see?
Well, I think it's going to be either I don't know or probably more than 50% of my data is stale. That's what I've been seeing in the industry. So
okay.
Let's see how the people respond.
Let's see the results. We publish results. Well, there you go.
Well, actually, the results are quite consistent with what I've been seeing. You know, and
but if this is right, what I'm reading here is 90% of the people polled either don't know or figure they've got more than 50% of their data that's stale.
Which is true, and this is exactly what we're talking about today, is that people don't know exactly what is out there, right? There's a lot of this dark data. Let me elaborate on this a bit. The other way, please. All right, so, okay, so this thing what you guys are looking at now is the so-called Databerg. The Databerg is the result of a recent global survey, a report that provides insight from over 2,500 IT professionals across 22 countries worldwide. It is the industry's first accurate view of the composition of enterprise data. So the Databerg, it's you know, kind of like an iceberg where only a small portion of it can be seen, but the vast majority of business data sits below the waterline and remains hidden. Hidden, you know, just like in the survey you guys answered, we don't know. And that's exactly what this is. So this Databerg here, it represents global data. The results might be a bit surprising to some, but from what I have personally seen and experienced, it's quite consistent across most organizations. Let's take a look a little bit closer at the results. Okay, so look at that. Just like with our little poll there, 54% of the data is considered dark data. That's data that's unclassified, you know, below the line of sight of management. 32% of data is rot data. Rot standing for redundant, obsolete, or trivial data. That's, you know, usually, like we're talking, the stale stuff. And only 14%, just 14%, that's a small fraction of this, is actual corporate business critical data. Data that you know, businesses use on an everyday basis, very important, critical. So for many organizations dealing with this kind of exponential data growth and this unknown, it's becoming a major expense. It's a very serious issue. Ladies and gentlemen, what I want to do today is explain to you how to address and deal with this data growth problem.
So, yeah, you know, I have a question for you, Jack, just based on what we're seeing here. And it's interesting that we're seeing a mirroring of that with our polling. But if we just talk about Canada in general, because I noticed, there wasn't a stat so much on Canada, would we expect to see the same sort of Databerg results in terms of the scale data in Canada as in general, or North America?
Okay, so in terms of North America, yeah, I would say we're very on the average compared to the other regions such as Europe, Asia Pacific, and globally, right? But in Canada, I don't want to say, a little bit embarrassing almost to say, but we're number 2. Well, number 2 is not too bad. Well, in this case, it's pretty bad because we're number 2 in terms of the amount of dark data we retain. So it's not that great.
Okay, thank you.
So, okay, so to take this, let's take a look. How do people generally deal with this type of accumulation of data, or whatever, whether it's data or material possessions? So we can easily compare this to an average individual going through life, or any growing organization. So as a young child, we already start to accumulate things, right? We have some toys, some books, some clothes, and the same thing can be said for early stages of an organization. They have some servers, some data, usually not a problem to manage this at all. With time, as the child grows up, they accumulate more stuff, more books, more clothes, more furniture. And what do? Well, they need more space to accommodate this stuff, this growth. So they move to a larger flat, possibly get a small condo. In terms of an organization, they also get more data. They accumulate this stuff in the years past. What do? Again, more capacity. Disk is relatively cheap, so they just keep throwing up more space. Now those little arrays move into big disk arrays, and the trend continues. More accumulation needs more space. So people move to larger houses. Large organizations move to larger disk arrays. More capacity, more and more data. It just keeps on going. However, this trend of just throwing more space to accommodate data growth, it has to stop. It's just not sustainable, whether it's a house or organization. It costs so much money, right? As the capacity increases, so do the costs. It will eventually overwhelm the largest repositories or even the deepest pockets. If you guys have ever watched Hoarders on TV, then you know that hanging on to objects that no longer have value only causes problems. And the same thing rings true for data hoarding. Eventually, everyone has to start decluttering, or there will be a lot of problems. Holding on to data that is not needed can not only cost you a lot of money, but can also impact the efficiency and the performance of your storage, your backup solutions, applications, many other critical processes that these applications use on the storage, for example. To put it simply, it's a very expensive problem to have. Data growth is particularly associated with increased costs relative to hardware, software, maintenance, administration of that. So, depending on the size of the organization, this kind of expenses, they can accumulate to thousands or sometimes even millions of dollars per year. What we are looking at is essentially what I like to call an information management challenge. Users have a general mindset to keep everything forever. To add to that, there's very often duplicate data, which causes even more waste. And of course, there's the issue of unsustainable backup windows. More data, and of course, less time to back it up. It's getting tough. Then there's this general fear of deletion. Because you don't know who is using that data, what is it for? Hey, then just keep it, just in case, right? Well, actually, that practice of keeping data longer than it really needs to be kept could sometimes be a potential liability in itself. The more data you have, for example, in case of litigation, the more data you need to search through and present to the courts as evidence. What we want to and what we need to do is gain control over our data. The best way is to know what is it that we have out there, understand it, and then do something about it.
Jack, we got our first question that's come in through the chat here. Let me just take a second and read it here.
Sure.
It's asking if there is a standard amount of time the data should be kept. So, you know, what would you say?
Standard amount of time. Well, there is no standard that I could clearly tell you that one standard to apply to all data, okay? For example, you know, it really depends what kind of business you're in, what kind of documents they are. So from what I remember, according to the CRA, generally speaking, you should keep your records, your financial records, your tax records, and supporting documents for a period of 6 years, okay? However, it really, the length of the retention depends on the territory or the type of business you deal with. For example, you know, also, you know, maybe whether you need some compliance or acts that you have to report to. So for example, let me tell you, like I said, 6 years for tax stuff. The standard for medical records, for example, is 10 years. Okay, in certain places, other jurisdictions like British Columbia, it's 16 years. So it really doesn't matter. I would say, you know, check with the compliance standards you must adhere to.
Great, thanks, Jack. And we've got some other questions coming in, and one in particular, I'd love if they could just elaborate. The question was, how can I determine this? If you could just elaborate on what the question is, we'll be happy to address that one. So thanks for the answering that, Jack, and please continue.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so with that said, with that information management challenge I was talking about earlier, so what we need to do is we need to understand what data is out there, first of all. Who owns that data? Where is that data stored? And who has access to it, okay? How is that data being used? And the most important thing, what is the actual value of that data? Quite often, just like in our poll at the beginning of the thing, what I've seen is that so much of this data, you know, I could easily say 50 to 60% of the data that is stored is not used at all. Yes, it could certainly have a lot of business value still, but should it really be stored on the primary storage? Should we be backing it up on a daily basis, maybe even copying it to tapes and sending it off-site on a regular basis? All this stuff costs so much money. We need to know what to do with that data. Maybe, you know, it should be archived, perhaps even deleted. Essentially, it comes down to a business decision. And those types of decisions usually are not just a quick ad hoc on the spot decision where an administrator or a manager just says, you know, listen, we're running out of capacity on this storage destination. Let's just delete a couple of these shares, some of these files, stop backing the stuff up. Those type of decisions, they have to be made with understanding and very clear facts about your data. And that is where Canatech can help you. We have a wide variety of tools to deal with this kind of stuff. One of the tools that Canatech uses, which is a great tool, it's a product called Data Insights from Veritas. Data Insights is a very powerful and extremely useful tool that has been designed to help customers specifically with this exact data management challenge which we are talking about today. With Data Insights, our Canatech specialists can help your organization by performing an analysis on your data environment. We can help you understand what is it that you have and how is it being used. For example, you know, we could give you information, we'll let you know what data you have there. Has that data been used or touched, modified in the last period of time, whether it's 6 months or 2 years? We can let you know if there's open shares, possibly shares that should not be open to everyone. Are there files out there that are owned by people who have already left your organization? Who are the real owners of this data? Do you possibly have identical data in multiple locations? We can let you know all these things. Yes, Steve?
Well, we got another question that just came in.
Yep.
It's asking whether the Veritas Data Insight needs to integrate into an existing application that we might be running in a network, or can it run independently?
Oh, okay. Well, no, the great thing actually about this tool is that Data Insights does not need to integrate into anything, okay? It is a tool to help analyze the data you have. Yes, it could certainly integrate into other products. It can integrate into archiving products products such as Enterprise Vault or security products like data loss prevention or other security products. If you do integrate them into those products, you could get even better functionality out of it, results, which I'm going to elaborate on it a little bit further. But data insights can essentially be used in an environment regardless of the backup products or any other products that you have or currently have in your environment. Even in environments where there is no backup solution. Hopefully that's none of you guys, but I've seen environments like that too. So this data insight analysis is here to help you understand your data. Yeah, it could certainly improve the efficiency of your backup solution or your storage. Backup solutions, whether it's Commvault, Veeam, their backup really doesn't matter, but it is not solution dependent. So let me talk a little bit more about data insights from Veritas. So what's involved in running or getting one of these analysis on your data? Well, first the product needs to be deployed. The product can be installed on a physical dedicated server. It can also be installed as a VM in your existing virtual environment, or it can even be run from a USB location. Once deployed, the product needs to be configured to scan the desired locations. And so we need to configure it, point it at the locations you want to scan, whether it's one or many shares, possibly full filers out there. What is it that you're interested in finding out information about? Then we run a scan to gather the information for analysis. I would like to point out that all this data gathering and analysis is done in a very non-intrusive manner. First of all, it can be configured to use a read-only account, ensuring that absolutely no data will be damaged, moved, or accidentally deleted. You can, but again, you don't have to integrate it into your Active Directory. And one very important aspect I want to point out is the product is very, as I mentioned earlier, non-intrusive. The product does not look at the contents of your data, not at all. It looks at the metadata, both those files and locations. So if we're doing a scan of very sensitive locations, or any locations for the matter, let's say HR or accounting, right? The product will be able to tell you many useful things about those files, those locations, such as how old they are, when was the last time they were used, accessed, modified, who's using them, who has permissions to it, are there duplicates? However, we could do all this without ever actually looking at the contents of the file, so we don't go to that level. Well, so benefits of data insight. What kind of benefits can you expect to get out of this kind of? Well, the benefit, of course, the primary benefit is a much better understanding and visibility of your data. What do you have? As I mentioned earlier, with this kind of visibility, you can do many useful things, such as clean up the messes, right? Delete or clean up the unneeded data, maybe archive what hasn't been used in a long time but still has value. You could set up proper retention periods, and you could improve the efficiency of your storage systems, your backup solutions, efficiency of your administrators. And if you improve the efficiency, let's say, of your storage, your backup, that's just more money in your pocket, better performance. So you could also remediate risk. Take a look at your shares. See who has access to them. See who is using them. Understand usage and consumption patterns. Possibly, get some growth trend reports out of it. That's another thing you can do. So those growth trend reports can certainly help you in planning your budget or your storage needs before they become an issue. I know that, being the professional services organization that deal and have dealt with this kind of data management and data protection for over 30 years, I know that as Canatech, we can help you. So now that you guys have a slightly better understanding of data insights, the whole process, how it works, what it can do, I'd like to just give you a couple screenshots, examples of reports that I've done in real life situations, okay?
Before you jump into that, Jack,
yeah.
We just have another question that came in.
Sure.
It says, if it does not look into the data, how is duplicate data determined?
Well, it does it it compares the size, the file names, the certain algorithms with it does look at the thing, but not the content. So I could actually take two files. Let's say there's a document jack.txt with a specific size, and I can find out if they're duplicates without actually reading the contents of that file. So without the actual text inside there. So
Right. So it's the file name is
file name, file size. Yep. So
great. Thank you.
okay, so let's take a look at some of the reports I want to share with you. Okay, this is one of the reports that, and I just want to let you guys know that this is far from being a full report. This is just actually, you know, just like in that Databerg, the tip of the iceberg. It's any of these sections I could drill down to extreme detail where those files are, who has ownership. But what I want to show you guys here is the data aging report. Okay. So on the left-hand side, we have the same report in terms of size, and on the right side is the data count, okay? All done on the same location. So what jumps out at you guys? To me, it's that big purple, dark purple color. Look at that. That's stuff older than 48 months. If we look on the left-hand side, where it's grouped by size, you know, we can see that the stuff that's older than 48 months old is 571 gigs. On the right-hand side, it's in terms of the count, it's 1.2 million files. So about 48 or 55% of the disk, depends how you look at it. That stuff has not been touched, used, accessed in, you know, 4 years. That's unbelievable. And you might think to yourself, okay, 571 gigs, yeah, that's, you know, that's relatively nothing. It's a drop in my environment. Well, don't look at this exact size here. Think of it in terms of percentages, right? I just wanted to let you guys know that this scan that I did here was on a 1.2 terabyte destination. So 571 gigs out of 1.2 terabytes, damn, that's half the disk, which we could, I'm not saying get rid of it. Let's archive it. Let's move it to cheaper, slower storage. Why leave it there? Yes, Stevie.
Yeah, Jack, we got another question that just came in.
Okay.
It's asking with this example, what is the size of this customer? I think they're trying to get an understanding of the size of the business.
Okay, so the customer size really doesn't matter. It matters when, in terms of the destination that I was scanning. In terms of this destination that I was scanning, it was a 1.2 terabyte group of shares. And, you know, yeah, it shows you the size, 571 gigs. But what's interesting, take a look at the percentage, 48% of the disk, okay, or that destination. That's key. On the right side, in terms of count, that's 55% of the files. So 1.2 million files, right? So,
okay, thank you.
Okay, let's take a look at something else here. Duplicate files report. Okay, so again, this was a report I ran. In this case, you could group these reports by whatever you want. In this case, I decided to do a duplicate files report and group them by file extension. So we could quickly see that, you know, there's 72 gigs or 72,000 megs, and 72 gigs of duplicate AVI files. Same thing, or regardless of where you guys look at, you know, whether it's 27 gigs of duplicate zip files, XLS files, 44 gigs, a lot of duplicates on that destination. With the duplicate files report, we also get our reclaimed storage report. This shows, you know, I can't remember, I think I said like something like 60 gigs of AVI files. Well, 50 of those gigs we could potentially reclaim. Total reclaim, if we reclaimed all the duplicate stuff, we could actually reclaim 223 gigs. Why can't we reclaim all of the duplicate files? Well, obviously we should keep at least one copy of this stuff, right? So, you know, of course, I wouldn't recommend to anyone just to blindly go and boom, delete these. Yeah, take a look where they are, who's using them, when was the last time they were used. Because possibly there could be duplicate files, but they're still very valuable and being used on a regular basis. So again, you know, going back to the question somebody asked, how big was this? Well, so 308 gigs of duplicate files, 223 gigs can be reclaimed out of a total space of 1.2 terabytes. What is that? 17% of the disk could be cleaned up. Awesome. I think that's pretty good. All right, so this here, what we're looking at is a growth trend report. Yeah, I'm sure you guys seen something similar in other places too, but it's very useful still, right? The little red dots indicate utilization, the blue dots indicate capacity. So what we can see, just quick view, is that capacity remains the same on that storage destination I'm scanning, and over time, you know, the utilization is going up. With these kind of reports and trends, we could see, you know, address our storage needs before they become an issue. Yes, Steve.
John, we've got another question, and this may require you to, we may need to respond one-on-one later, but it says, I have an environment where our users copy logs/data from the server's local drive to the file share.
Okay. So
how do I correlate the metadata from the file to the original server?
So okay, so let me just understand this. So you guys, there's log files in one location, and yet they're being copied to another location. So if we scan that original primary location, of course we're not going to see the duplicates. However, if we scan both of these destinations, yeah, we could certainly find the duplicates. So for each duplicate file that it finds, and whether you group them by, you know, file type or file name, you could drill down and see that you know, there's two copies of this file, one in this location, one in this location. This was accessed at this time, and this was accessed at this time. If you scanned the multiple locations, you will be able to find those duplicate files.
Yeah, because he just says here, I end up backing up the data twice.
Well, that's exactly what we're trying to avoid, right, and clean up. So there's no sense. So, all right. Okay, this is an interesting one. User activity reports. So what we're looking at is a share or a file, and those little heads or icons, what you want to call, indicate different users who have permissions to that share or file, okay? And the lines indicate how they're being used. So, you know, maybe you could say the yellows are, you know, accounting people, and the other ones are senior management. Blues are, you know, administrators or something. But what about those two? Those two, why is Frank and Joe from, you know, let's say shipping, why do they have access to that share? Should they? Maybe, maybe not. You know, with these kind of reports, you know, I'm not saying to block it instantly, but it gives you a good insight. Who's using what, where, who has permissions. Oh yes, CryptoLocker. Okay, I don't want to spend too much on this, but I just want to quickly touch on CryptoLocker, since it's a subject or issue that's been certainly gaining a lot of attention recently. I'm sure most of you guys have heard about this CryptoLocker or crypto virus in the news, or possibly from your coworkers, friends. For those of you guys who aren't familiar with CryptoLocker, it's a ransomware Trojan, which for many targets, which targets mainly Windows network drives and shares. It encrypts the files in there and then asks a user to pay some sort of ransom, usually in Bitcoins, in order to have their files decrypted and then accessed once again. Many organizations have been hit by this type of ransomware over the last several months, and experts predict that there will be many more such attacks in the future. Yes, Steve?
Well, I just thought this would be interesting. I read an article just recently that stated that Canada ranks number 3 in ransomware attacks.
Yeah, it's I don't know exactly where they rank in terms of that. I don't doubt it, but one thing I can tell you for sure, there's more and more of them, and there will be more. I mean, especially since people are paying the ransom, right? It just keeps them going. So with that said, you know, this type of attack is usually very hard to detect. Why? Well, because this so-called virus doesn't really infect the files in the traditional sense as a regular virus. It just encrypts these files, which, can be seen as a regular operation. If Jack or Frank encrypts 2 files, that's not really a malicious activity. If anything, it's a preventive measure, right? So, but I strongly believe that data insights can help protect and prevent the spread of such a virus. With those reports I mentioned earlier, file access reports, if file access activity is being monitored, and like I showed earlier, data insights can certainly do that. Those type of automatic behaviors where these files are being encrypted, they generate a very large number of open, modify, write events at a very rapid pace. In most cases, these encryptions are all executed from the same account. So with automation and monitoring tools like this, these events can be spotted fairly easily. So for example, if a user encrypts or modifies 2 files, no problem. But if you see an account, all of a sudden modifying 100 or 1,000 files within a very short span, let's say 30 seconds or a minute, it's a very good bet that something automated or something fishy is going on. Something should be done about that. We can, of course, configure data insights to trigger alerts when this type of behavior is observed. And somebody was asking about integration. Yep, we can integrate to security products, right? So to take it one step further, data insights, once it triggers, detects this kind of behavior, it can trigger an automated response when used with conjunction with security tools such as data loss prevention, or DLP. The proper response to such an event, when detected, should be, in my opinion, something like, disable that user account, and at least until you find out what's going on, why is it doing that, right? Possibly change the share permissions to read-only to protect those files from being modified. Maybe even completely disable the sharing or take some of your most critical shares offline. So if you do that, the attack is then effectively stopped before inflicting further damage. As the next step, with the data insights logging capabilities and reporting, we could provide the administrator visibility into exactly what shares, what files have been infected. This would greatly aid in the cleanup of this nasty virus. So, how will we clean it up? At that point, start restoring from your backup solution, right? But hopefully we wouldn't need to restore those files from everything. Oh, but I just want to point out that data insights, just by itself, is not an antivirus, and it will not prevent a CryptoLocker attack. It could certainly help detect and prevent the spread of this virus, but it is not an antivirus, so I don't want to mislead somebody. Steve,
yeah, we have another question that
Okay.
came in, and I'm not sure if you're going to require more information. I think they're talking about the Veritas Data Insights.
Yeah.
It says, is it an agent-based system?
It is an agent-based system, although there are also agentless capabilities depending what you're scanning and the destination. So there's a couple of different ways of doing this. So
great, thank you.
If somebody's interested about that, they could give us a call or give me a call. I can explain the different modes. So
yeah, okay.
I don't want to go into all the technical details right now, but
So there's options.
there certainly is options. Yeah, agent or agentless. Yeah. So okay. So I'm under the impression that nothing lasts forever, and certainly neither should all of your data. Some of it, most of it, yeah, sure, why not? But most likely, probably not all, and definitely not retained forever. Like a lot of things I've seen. So remember at the beginning of the webinar, I showed you guys the Databerg. Well, yeah. It's still out there, okay? It's still out there and floating in the sea of technology. Remember, what you can't see, you can't manage, okay? With poor visibility, sooner or later, you could end up as the Titanic. With good visibility and understanding, it is possible to navigate and effectively manage those databergs, deal with that data. So, at Canatech, we understand that many organizations have tight budgets, and most places do. I urge you, contact us. We can help you. We can help you by providing this consulting and analysis. Get visibility into your environment. Understand what you have out there and carry through with appropriate actions. If you do that, you will simplify your environment, you will improve your security, and most importantly, you will get more efficient. You'll be able to deal with that, tight budget. You will reduce your costs. Please, contact Canatech, do an assessment, get more efficient. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack. So I hope that everybody found this very informative. I certainly did. I know that there are some other questions that have been coming in. I think what we're going to do is we will create an FAQ, which we will send out. But I think it's also it's important to let people know that they have options in terms of what their next steps could be if they want to get more information about the solution or see what it's looking like in their own network. So we have a limited number of spots available for clients or people out there that want to get a free assessment. And if you're looking at our ability to provide a free assessment, you just have to simply contact us at info@canatech.com, and we'll respond. And as I said, I just got to stress we've only got a few limited spots. We've got a great attendance today, so that's one thing. The other thing too is, if some people are not ready yet for that assessment, we do provide the ability, Jack or someone else on our team here will provide a quick demo on a test server.
Yeah, certainly, whether it's a demo or, just give me a call, contact this info@canatech.com. They'll get in touch with me. I'll give you details, what we can do, how we can help. I know we can help you.
Okay, great. So thanks again, and just to note that this webinar has been recorded, and it will be put up on our website a bit later on today. So feel free to come back at any time if you want to review some of the information or the details on the solution. Thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to talking to you again soon. And this now officially concludes the webinar, so thank you, Jack, for your time, and everybody have a great day. Thank you.